Hello everyone. Um, has
Hi
anyone
everyone.
joined us
Good to
yet?
see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see, great to see everyone again. So today we will talk about meaningful choice, which is kind of weird if you ask me because like, isn't choice supposed to be meaningful? Of course, but we will talk about it, and later you will find out that there might be some choices that are meaningful, more meaningful than the other. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? The first thing I want to ask is, have you ever thought about what is a choice? Every day we make like thousands of choices, right? Like imagine going to a McDonald's for the first time, and you're greeted with this menu. What would you order? What's your choice? Video game in its core is interactive, right? Like you have to do something with it compared to like watching a movie or like reading a book. You just passively enjoying the content. With video game, you have to do something. And what is something? When you do something, that means you make a choice. That's why it's different from novel, comic, or movie. Because the choice in game are what make the games interactive. Okay, so have you ever thought about what constitutes of a choice? Like what is like the anatomy of a choice? So here is the anatomy of a choice. A choice is comprised of four parts. The first thing is the info. What is info? Info is what happened before this choice. What is like the context of this choice? Because like without this, like you don't know what do you expect when you make the choice. Like when, for example, someone will ask me like choose A, B, or C, but you don't even know what is A, B, or C. Then why do you even want to make the choice? Because like you don't have the info for the choice. The second thing is the presentation. How are the choices presented? How the player know what they can do. So these are like, for example, in like my previous example, those will be A, B, or C. Like the player has to know like they have three choices, right? A, B, or C. But how the player know what they can do? Are those choices, yeah, is something like buttons on the screen, or those would be something like they are touch during the tutorial, or something like a HUD on the screen. For example, like a button light up so they can see that okay, I have enough mana to do something. I have enough mana to use a spell. So my choice here are either using this spell or this spell because I have enough mana to use one of those. The third part of a choice is action. How does the player make the choice? What mechanic does the player interact with to make the choice? What is the player action overall? So these will be something like, for example, like in something like a visual novel game or something like when they have choices as buttons, the way that the player make the choice will be something like they tap on the button or they click on the button. In some other games, for example, like action games, the choice will be something like if they want to use a spell, right, they have to press on the button of that spell to cast the spell, or they have to maybe something like use A to select the spell, something like that, or maybe something like they have to like do like perform some kind of movement or some perform some kind of action to like make the choice. And the third one, I know the fourth one, which is like one of the very most one of the very like most important thing is the consequences. So the consequence will be divided into two parts. The first part is the outcome. What is the outcome of that choice? How will this outcome affect the future choices? For example, you do something right. For example, you choose the burger and then you decide to eat the burger. The outcome of that choice is you ate that burger. So you ate the burger and then you, excuse me, and then you feel full, right? Because you ate the burger. So how will this outcome affect the future choices? So maybe like in the future, you in like the immediate future, you won't want to eat something else again because you already had the burger. You are full now. So maybe you try something else, like maybe an ice cream, but you want to choose something like maybe a taco or burrito because you're already full. And B is feedback. How is the effect of that choice presented to the player? And this one is also important too because sometimes like you do something right, it obviously affect like the game state. It obviously affect like what is like the current state of the player, but it doesn't reflect back to the player, so the player doesn't feel like they did something. Like they just press the button and then nothing happened because there's no visual feedback that tells the player that okay, I did something, something probably happened, and it affect me in that way. I know that like these four things might be like a little bit confusing, so here is like an example. So here's a game called Valorant. I don't know if you play it. I think it's quite popular. First person shooter from Riot, the creator of League of Legends. And I'm gonna play a video of it. Okay, so like right now we can see that here's our choices. Okay, so in the FPS you use WASD to move, right? And then you can look around using your mouse. So like those are like your default choices. You can move around, you can look around, and you may ask, what is the info? The info in here will be like the minimap. You can have the minimap that will show you like where are you on the map and where are the enemies are if you or some other teammates have a line of sight of them. And with that information, you can do something about it. So for example, you are standing here, so you're standing near like the entrance of the sea side, right? And you have all these skills. You can see that your skills are available because like they have the blue mark on it. You see that, okay? Blue means like, and they are white. Blue means that you can access to this skill. So those are like the info that you have. And then what is your choice? So for example, your choice will be you're gonna go and pick C long to see if there's someone over here. But if you're gonna pick there, then it might be too risky. So you have a skill that allow you to dash. So what you want to do is you're gonna pick and then you dash to safety. And how you do that? Okay, so you can see over here that the dash skill which is bind to MB5 is available, and you will understand that what is like your action to do that. The choice are presented with like these icons, and you will know that how you're gonna like do the skill. Okay, so for example, like I'm gonna go here and I click on the skill. So like this skill is a little bit different compared to other skill, and it might be strange to you too. But I think that the developer at Riot they did like a pretty good job in presenting how the skill is how the skill works. Okay, so in normal situation, right, when you look at the skill and you know that it's a dash skill, right? And then you think like, okay, I'm gonna press the skill and then I will dash. But this skill is different. The first time you activate the skill, you will be allowed to dash in like a duration. So as you can see over here, there's like a wind effect on both sides of the screen to let you know that okay, that you can dash now. And then there will be a progress bar over here to show you that how much time do you have left in order to dash. And then I know that like the text here is pretty blurry, but the text here says that press again to dash. So you know that okay, I press the button, right? I activate like the dash mode. So if I want to dash again, I have to press the button again to dash, and the timer goes down. Like these are like the presentation of this skill. So you know that what is your choice currently. And when you click on this button, there will be like wind effect. There will be like um, the progress bar here to let you know that your action has consequence. The consequence is that you are able to dash now. Oh my god. And then when I press the dash button, there will be that dash animation to let me know that okay, I did the dash and now I'm here. So all these four things that I talk about is presented very clearly in Parent. I know what is like the info before I make the choice, which is the choice I want to use the dash skill, the presentation of the dash skill. I see that like all of my abilities are there, they are available to use, and I decided to use the dash. The action is I decided to press the mouse button 5 to use the dash. And then the consequences is the first time I press mouse button 5, there is win, there is progress bar to let me know that okay, I'm in the dash mode. And this will affect my future choice is that now I can either dash or not dash. Because the first time I use it, I cannot dash immediately, but now I can dash immediately, which allow me to like make more risky play. I can face check like a long corner without like of being afraid of I will get this I will be shot to death. And the feedback is that okay, there's win, there's progress bar, and then the next time I press mouse button 5, I dash. So like the outcome is that I'm in a safe spot, and then the feedback is that there's like a blurry of skin, like the screen was blurry, and then I can see that like my dash direction is over there. So I can see that okay, now I'm in a safe area. Okay, so that is like example number one. So for example number two, we will talk about a Plant versus Zombie. I hope that this is a game that a lot of people in here know it too. So in this game, you have to plant plants, right? And in order to plant plants, you will need sunflower. And how will you get sunflower? You may ask. You get sunflower by clicking on the sun by clicking on the sun that fall from the sky, or by clicking on the sun that is produced by the sunflower. So here's like sorry because like the image is cropped, but here are the choices of the plant that you are allowed to plant. You can see that some plants are lit and some other are darkened. So you will immediately understand what are your choices. You can only plant those plants that you have enough money to buy. But you don't if you don't have enough money to buy, then you can't plant those. So for example, right now you don't have like 100 sun, right? Since you already have 100 sun, then you can only buy this plan, or this plan. You can buy anything that's above 100. So obviously you can buy something that is like 150, 175, or 150. The other thing is that you can see that there are clearly like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 lanes over here. You can see that which zombies are in what lane. So you can make your choices about where do you want to plant your plant and which plant do you want to grow. Okay, so we have talked a little bit about what make a choice, what are in a choice. So right now let me talk a little bit about interesting choices. So what is interesting choices? Interesting choices are choices that force the player to think. So as I talked earlier, normally in a day you make like 1,000 choices, right? But most of them you don't have to think of it. That's why you don't even remember about that you made a choice because you internalize them. You are familiar with them. You don't have to think about them. You just do those, just make those choices because that is like the best option. But in game, we don't want that. We don't want the player to not think about making those choices. We want them to think about every choices that they encountered during the playthrough of the game. And in order to make those choices memorable or interesting, there are two ways to do it. The first thing is making a choice, a trade-off, and the second thing is you can make a choice, a risk or a reward. So the first thing is a trade-off. Trade-off might be like the most basic and the most useful way to make choices in your game more interesting. So, for example, think about that. You have three, you have two choices. One, you gain something. The other, you gain other thing. Both of those things, for example, like you get one thing is A and the other thing is B. Both of those things are great, but you can only be able to take one of them. So you have to think about, okay, what do I want? What do I want currently? What do I want that fits the best with what I need? So sometimes that the player they don't not only that they have to think about what they want, they also have to think about what they need because maybe choice A is something that they want, but choice B is something that they need. So those are the trade-off. You choose one, you lose another. In order to make trade-off like be interesting, each choice must have pros and cons. If like for example, in those choices, there's one option that is like above the other options, the player will choose like the best option. And that is when it's not a trade-off anymore. It is an obvious choice because the best option is obviously that the best one, right? Because it is the best option. There's no like there's in no situation that you want to choose the other one. So in order to make trade-off, like to pull to to make like a successful trade-off choices, you must think about how to make your choices that is comparatively similar to each other in terms of value, but different from each other in terms of usefulness. For example, everyone here has limited time in a day, right? So maybe sometimes that we want to organize our time, we have to make like a timetable. But so when we have a timetable, then you have to do something. You have to do some planning. You want to go to work today, or you want to go playing today, or you want to go like practice piano today, or you want to go to eat today, right? Each of these actions takes time, but you only have like so much time. So you have to choose between you want to go study or you want to go play. Of course, if you want to go to play, then you have fun, right? And you will decrease stress. If you go study, then your score will be higher, but you will increase stress. Those are trade-offs because like you have the same amount of time, you have to choose whether or not whether you spend that time to do something. And when you do something, then you lose the opportunity to do other things. And that is like the trade-off between doing this thing, doing that thing. Another example of trade-off is, for example, in this game. I hope that everyone knows this game. This game is called Achero. So in this game, you kill monster, right? And then when you kill monster, you gain XP. And when you have enough XP, then you can level up. When you level up, you can choose one of the three skill that is shown over here. But you can only choose one. So this is a trade-off. You can either choose this skill, or you choose this skill, or you choose this skill, but you can't choose two of them or three of them. So when you choose one skill, that means that you won't be able to choose the other two. And that is the trade-off. You have to think about what is like the best skill that you need at the moment. What is like your situation is, what is your info, so that you can be able to like make a meaningful choice. Um, the next interesting choice is risk versus reward. Between like a riskier choice and a safe choice, which choice will you make? For example, if those choice will reward the same price, right? Then about obviously everyone will choose like the easy one, because like why do you have to do like you have to do the hard one if the hard one has the same price as the easy one? So in order to make this choice interesting, we have to do one thing, that is make the hard choice have better price compared to the easier one. So the player will have to ask themselves, okay, which one do I want to take? I want to take the riskier one for better price. I will take the easy one for lower price. And one of the most famous example of this is in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Um, I hope that everyone understand, everyone know the rule of this game. So in this game, there are like 15 questions, right? And then in like there's some milestone in question 15, 12, and 5. But what if you are in, for example, question 10 or 9? You're in between like these two milestones, right? If you answer incorrect, then you will be moved to like the last milestone that you encounter, which is question number 5. But if you answer the question correctly, then you will to move up to question 10. So the question now is, do you want to take a risk and answer question number 9, or do you want to end the game and the take the prize at the current question? That is no choice. That is like the risk versus reward. The risk is you answer the question so you can aim for higher prize, and the easy route is you end the game so that you can safely get the current price, but you won't be able to go and earn 1 million. So to recap things, here's the comparison between trade-off and risk and reward. In trade-off, you either take A or B. You never will to take both. And normally the value of A and B is the same, because if A is better or B is better, everyone will take A or B. Everyone will take the better option. And that is when it becomes an obvious choice. In risk versus reward, it will normally be something like the higher the reward, the higher the risk. And you must choose between high risk, high reward, or low risk, low reward. And normally, when choosing between the high risk, high reward option, you will also get the benefit of the low risk, low reward option if you succeed. This is something that is implemented so that maybe, for example, some player will see that, okay, for example, that the high risk, high reward has higher value compared to the lowest risk reward, right? But the price of the low risk reward option is something that the player wants. They don't want the price of high risk, high reward. So the player will choose the low risk reward, and that will like defeat the design of these choices. In order to fix that, we have to do it so that the high risk, high reward also include the price of the low risk, low reward, so that they can either choose the lower risk or reward because they want that price, or they can choose the high risk, high reward so that they can also have that same price, but they also have more. And okay, so the next thing is we already talked about interesting choices, right? The next thing we will talk about is least interesting choices. And this part I will handle to my partner Tiến. Tiến, can you go ahead?
Okay, thank Nitin for the previous talk. Uh, my part now, right? Okay, if your game has some fun and interesting choice, then that is a great idea. But besides the exciting choice, there are also some less interesting type design, and sometimes we may need to include them in our games. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. Every type choice can be useful if you use it at the right time and in the right place. But what does right time and right place really mean? Well, that's something we need to look deeper into. So let's explore three types of less exciting choice. First is obvious decision, second, meaningless decision, and the final one is blind decision. Now, first, let's talk about the obvious decision. An obvious decision is a choice that any reasonable player would make. It's the one that just makes sense. We are no tic tac toe, right? What is your experience with that game? When you play it, if you don't block your opponent, you will lose. So, in most cases, you only have one real choice. Almost every turn feels like the game is telling you what to do. Even so, it still has all the parts of a proper decision before communication, action, and consequence. But here's the thing, with the right strategy, the first player can never lose. Tic tac toe is a soft game, and because of that, it's not a fun anymore. So, can you next the slide? So to make choice in tic-tac-toe more interesting, you need to add something new, like more information, more randomness, or just more options to choose from. One example is Gomoku. It has a bigger board and a lot of more possible moves, so the decision feels deeper and less obvious. Another example comes from RPGs. If a weapon is clearly stronger than all the others, player will always choose it. No thinking needed. So in short, when your game has choice that's too clear, too predictable, and there's almost no real thinking involved, that we call an obvious decision. Alright, now let's move on to the next part, the meaningless decision. Another common and less exciting type of choice in the game is a meaningless decision. A meaningless decision is when the player choice doesn't really change anything in the game. The result stays the same and the experience feels the same too. It takes away the feeling of control and impact from the player. For example, in many RPG games, at the very start, the player is asked to accept a quest, but no matter what they say, they still have to take it. If you choose no, the king will just keep asking again until you finally say yes. That choice has no real value. And because if you want to play the game, you have no other option anyway. One simple way to make this kind of decision more interesting is to let it actually change something in the game, even if small. Here, an example of what we call the illusion of choice. This meaningless decision, back to the slide. Yeah, this meaningless decision make you feel like you have control, but in reality, they are just for show. If a game uses kind of tools too often, players may feel manipulated, not empowered. If it can lower their engagement and excitement because they realize no matter what they pick, they end up in the same place. And if all choice lead to the same result, then what's the fun in choosing? Of course, some games do use meaningless decision well, with clever writing or humor. Let's take a look at one fun example, a choice scene from Psychonauts. Yeah, open it. In this game, if you choose no, Raz gets slapped again and again until you finally say yes. That's one way to use meaningless decision in a funny way. Now let's do a quick recap of what we have learned so far. Obvious decision and meaningless decision. Here's a simple way to remember. An obvious decision is when one choice is clearly better than the others. A meaningless decision is when any choice is fine. It doesn't really matter. Now let's move into the final type, the blind decision. This one shows up a lot, especially in RPGs. Right at the start, the game asks, what class do you want to play? Which civilization do you pick? Where do you put your start point? For many players, this choice feel a bit overwhelming. Some may even feel lost and just pick random to get over it. And when that happens, it doesn't feel like a real choice. If a player picks a random characters, asks random stats without understanding, and then end up with a boring or weak character, they may feel even worse than if they have no choice at all. This kind of frustration can even make someone quit the game. From the player point of view, the game gives them a lot of options, but no way to choose well. Just having more choice isn't always a good thing. One good way to fix this is to let the player try out these class first, then make addition afterward. By this time, they understand the game better and can make more thoughtful choice. A blind decision is when the player doesn't know what will happen after their choice. They can't see the risk or the rewards, so the choice end up feel like a guess or just pure luck. Let me give you one more example to make this clear. Imagine you walking down the street and you see a magician. He shows you a deck of face down cards and says, pick one. In that moment, you have no idea what to choose. Which card? What's the goal? And what are the outcomes? Many people will hesitate, and in the end, they will just pick one at random. That's a classic real life example of a blind decision. And finally, are blind decision, meaningless decision, or obvious decision always bad? Not really. There's a special type game that break these rules. The game based on art and chance. Even if the choice is blind decision, play still uh, find it fun. Let's watch a short video about that. This is mine, a gamble game from Stake. Uh, this is where player psychology takes over. We will continue the discussion in the next session about gamer psychology. For now, that's all the time we have. If you have any questions, please send them to us. Uh, Thank you very much for listening. Uh, yeah, now it's time for the Q&A segment.
Okay. Thank you Will for listening to our session. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate and ask us now. Thank you. Come on, guys, don't be shy. Ask any question. Like, do if you want to know more about choices, or like if you want to share about some choices in the game that you feel interesting,
If you want to
feel
know
free to
more
share
about
it about
choices,
that.
or like if you want to share about some choices in the game that you feel interesting, if you want to
Feel
know
free to.
more.
I can see that someone is typing on Discord.
So let's wait for few more minutes and so right now, like if you don't have a question right now, it's okay. Just send it on Discord and the GNL team like they both on Discord. So if you like don't have time to watch the video now, it's okay. Just but like if you have any question, just ask on Discord and we will help you. Like don't have time to watch the video now, it's okay. Just but like if you have any question, just ask on Discord and we will help you. Okay, so we have one question. Uh, I want to know if there any moral to check make choice in the game. Okay, so we have one question. Uh, I want to know if there any moral to check make choice in the game.
I'm not sure how can I understand this question? What do you mean by checkmate?
I'm not sure how can I understand this question. What do you mean by checkmate? I think like RC or like the or like the game that like breeding egg or is that? I think like RC or like the or like the game that like breeding egg or is that? I think like oh,
So for a clear procedure of making a choice, then I already talked about it in the beginning. Um, I'm like share my
the
screen
question for
again.
the speaker is yeah he say like clear produce and reading a like I think it's like a
So
mating like a pet or like a mating character Pokemon and breeding egg. So that's a question or choice, I assume.
so here are the anatomy of a choice. So in order to make a choice feel great, then it must have these four things. It must have the info. So what happened before the choice is must have the presentation. The player must understand that they have those choices, and it must have the action, which means that the player must be able to choose that choice. They must be able to like do something with the choice. And then when they do something, then the choice must have consequences. It must affect the game state, and it must present itself to the player so that the player understand that they did the choice. So in order to like understand that what makes the choice great, it must have these four things in a normal game. So that's how you make like a great choice. Does this answer your question? And by the way,
So
if
if
you are late,
anyone have any more question or like, and then we can close it here. And we are like also like cleaning the Discord, like so you will see some changes, and we'll try to be more active on the Discord, and it so it can look better and help everyone easier to navigate. So just a quick update.
okay, I guess that's it. Thanks everyone. And if you are late, then you can also check out the YouTube link. It has the archive of our talk. So if you want to check it out later, then you can also do that. And yeah, I guess that's it for today, right?
Yeah, thank you everyone
Yeah, thank you
for
everyone.
attending.
Okay, bye bye.
See you again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.